She shouted, "If you tame this horse, I'm yours and I'll marry you." The poor cowboy, mocked and dismissed, stepped forward in silence. With patience over power, he reached the wild beast and her guarded heart. In the end, it wasn't the horse that surrendered. It was her pride. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching us from. We continue. I promise that this will be the best story you will hear in your life. The harsh Montana sun beat down on Emma Blackwood's face as she stood at the edge of the corral, her designer boots collecting dust from the dry summer earth. Her father's sprawling ranch, Blackwood Valley, stretched for miles in every direction. 15,000 acres of prime land that had been in their family for generations. At 32, Emma had just returned from New York to take over operations after her father's heart attack, trading her corner office for wide open spaces she'd spent a decade trying to escape. "That's the one," said Frank, the ranch foreman who had worked for her father for over 20 years. He pointed toward a magnificent black stallion pacing nervously at the far end of the corral. "Thunder. We've had him for 8 months. Nobody can ride him. 3 trainers have tried. 2 ended up in the hospital. Your father was determined to break him before—" Frank's voice trailed off. Emma brushed a strand of dark hair from her face. "Before he got sick. I know." She studied the horse with calculated interest. The animal was magnificent, powerful muscles rippling beneath. A gleaming coat, wild eyes scanning for escape. Even in his agitation, there was something regal about him. "So what do we do with him? Sell him?" "Your father would never forgive you," Frank said bluntly. "He paid $30,000 for that stallion. Breeding potential alone is worth twice. That if we can just get him rideable." Emma sighed. Her father's stubbornness had always been legendary, a trait she'd inherited in full. "Fine, get another trainer, whatever it costs." "That's the thing, Miss Emma. Word's gotten around. Nobody wants to touch him, except—" Frank hesitated. "Except what?" "There's this guy. Different type. Works with problem horses all over the state. Uses some kind of alternative methods, no force, no breaking. They say he can work miracles, but—" "But what?" Emma prompted, already impatient with the conversation. "He's not cheap, and he takes his time. Weeks, sometimes months, and, frankly, a lot of the boys think his methods are—" Frank searched for the right word. "Soft." Emma laughed, the sound sharp against the open air. "Soft? Like horse whispering? That new age nonsense?" Frank shrugged. "All I know is he gets results when nobody else can. Man named Ethan Rivers. Lives about an hour from here." Emma watched the stallion kick at the fence, frustrated by confinement. Something about the animal's desperation struck a chord within her. "Call him," she said finally. "But make it clear we're on a timeline. I'm not running a horse therapy retreat." 3 days later, Emma stood in the same spot, watching a dust cloud approach along the dirt road leading to the ranch. A weather-beaten, blue pickup truck pulled to a stop, and a tall figure emerged. Ethan Rivers didn't look like she had expected. There was nothing soft about the man walking toward her. Lean and sun-weathered, he moved with the quiet confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin. Faded jeans, a simple button-down shirt with rolled sleeves revealing tanned forearms, and worn boots that had clearly seen years of honest work. "Miss Blackwood?" His voice was deeper than she expected, with a slight roughness to it. "Mr. Rivers." Emma extended her hand. Corporate habits die hard. His grip was firm but not dominating. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Frank made it sound urgent. His eyes, a startling shade of green, assessed her briefly before moving to scan the corral where Thunder paced. "Is that him?" Emma nodded. "That's our problem." "No," Ethan said quietly. "He's not a problem. He's just misunderstood." Emma couldn't help the slight eye roll. "Well, misunderstood or not, he's cost us time and money. Frank says you might be able to help." "I might." Ethan walked closer to the fence, his movements slow and deliberate. The stallion's head came up, nostrils flaring as he assessed this new human. "What's his story?" "Purchased from a breeder in Kentucky. Excellent bloodlines. Started showing aggression during initial training. Previous owner couldn't handle him. My father bought him, thinking our trainers could succeed where others failed." Emma recited the facts like a business report. Ethan nodded slowly. And now your father is ill, and you've inherited his unfinished project. The bluntness of his assessment irritated her. My father is recovering, and this ranch isn't a project, it's my family's legacy. A legacy you left behind for 10 years, Ethan observed, still watching the horse. Emma stiffened. You seem to know a lot about me, Mr. Rivers. People talk. Small communities. He turned to face her fully. I'll need time with him daily, at least 2 months. 2 months? Emma scoffed. That's ridiculous. We need results faster than that. Then I'm not your guy. Ethan turned as if to leave. Wait. Emma hadn't expected him to walk away so easily. Most men she dealt with in business bent over backwards to accommodate her demands. What would your approach be? First, just being present, no demands, building trust, then gradual desensitization, positive reinforcement. We work at his pace, not ours. Emma crossed her arms. And your success rate? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I finish what I start. Something about his quiet confidence intrigued her. The stallion was growing more agitated as other ranch hands moved around nearby corrals. Emma made a swift calculation. 1 month, she counted. If you can get him rideable in 1 month, I'll double your fee. Ethan studied her for a long moment. This isn't about money, Miss Blackwood. Then what is it about? She challenged. His gaze shifted back to the horse. Respect, partnership, understanding. Emma laughed lightly. Very philosophical, but in the real world everything has a price. Ethan's expression remained neutral. Not everything. An idea formed in Emma's mind, partly from frustration, partly from a desire to challenge this man's idealistic approach. Fine, 1 month. If you succeed, I'll not only pay you, but I'll... She paused, a reckless thought taking shape. I'll go on a date with you. Frank, who had been standing nearby, coughed in surprise. Ethan's eyebrows rose slightly. Miss Blackwood, I'm here for the horse, not for a dating opportunity. Scared you'll fail? Emma taunted, enjoying the rare feeling of being unpredictable. It had been so long since she'd done anything that wasn't carefully calculated. Scared you're treating. This like a game, he replied evenly. That horse deserves better. His response irritated and impressed her simultaneously. 1 month, the fee we discussed, no date, but I'll be monitoring your progress daily. If at any point I feel you're wasting our time, the deal's off. Ethan considered for a moment, then nodded once. I'll need a quiet place to work with him. No audience, no interference. The north pasture has a small round pen. Private enough for you? It'll do. Ethan looked back at Thunder. I'll start tomorrow at dawn. As he walked back to his truck, Emma called after him. Most trainers would have jumped at that date. Offer, you know. Ethan paused, looking back over his shoulder. I'm not most trainers. And from what I hear, you're not the dating type anymore. Not since Charles Woodley left you at the altar 5 years ago. Emma's face flushed hot with anger and embarrassment. Get one thing straight, Rivers. You're here to train a horse, not analyze me. My personal life is off limits. He nodded once, his expression giving nothing away. Fair enough. See you tomorrow, Miss Blackwood. As his truck disappeared down the dirt road, Emma felt a strange mix of irritation and curiosity. Something told her the next month would change. Things at Blackwood Valley, she just didn't know how much. For the first week, Emma thought she'd made a terrible mistake. Each morning she would watch from a distance, as Ethan simply sat on an overturned bucket in the round pen, reading a book while Thunder paced nervously around him. No rope, no halter, no attempt to approach the agitated stallion. Just quiet. Presence. The ranch hands snickered behind their hands, and Emma's patience wore thinner by the day. On the 8th morning, she marched across the field toward the round pen, determined to end this charade. The Montana air was crisp with early autumn, dew still clinging to the tall grass. As she approached, she slowed her pace, noticing something different. Thunder was standing motionless across the pen from Ethan, who continued reading as if nothing remarkable was happening. Emma quietly climbed the fence, settling on the top rail. The stallion's ears flicked toward her but remained mostly focused on Ethan. After nearly 10 minutes of this strange standoff, Ethan finally closed his book and stood slowly. Thunder tensed, but didn't retreat. "Good morning, Miss Blackwood," Ethan said without looking at her. "You're earlier than usual?" "I'm paying you to train a horse, not to catch up on your reading," Emma replied, though with less edge than she'd intended. Ethan finally glanced her way, a slight smile playing at his lips. "I am training him. He's learning I'm not a threat. That I respect his space." He gestured toward the horse. "Notice anything different today?" Emma studied Thunder. The stallion's posture was different, still alert but less frantic. His breathing seemed steadier. "He's calmer." "He's curious," Ethan corrected. "Curiosity is the first step to trust." As if to demonstrate, Ethan turned his back to the horse and walked to the center of the pen. He knelt down, took an apple from his pocket, and placed it on the ground before walking back to his bucket. The message was clear: your choice. Minutes passed. Emma started to speak, but Ethan raised a hand slightly, asking for silence. Finally, with cautious steps, Thunder approached the apple, ears flicking back and forth, ready to flee at the slightest movement. He stretched his neck, sniffed the offering, and eventually took it between his teeth before backing away to eat it. "That's it." Emma couldn't hide her disappointment. "A week of work and he eats an apple." "A week ago he would have rather starved than take food from human hands," Ethan said. "Progress isn't always visible, Miss Blackwood." "Emma," she said suddenly. "If we're going to be working together for a month, you might as well call me Emma." Ethan nodded. "Emma, then." He stood and stretched. "Would you like to learn what I'm doing, really understand it?" The invitation surprised her. "I have a ranch to run. 15 minutes. Then you can decide if I'm wasting your money." Curiosity won out. "Fine. 15 minutes." Ethan gestured for her to enter the pen. Emma hesitated. "Is it safe?" "Nothing with horses is completely safe, but if you follow my lead, the risk is minimal." Emma climbed down into the pen, her heart rate accelerating slightly as Thunder's attention fixed on her. Ethan moved to her side, his presence somehow reassuring. "Horses are prey animals," he explained quietly. "Everything in their evolution tells them to fear predators, like us. When trainers use force or pain, they confirm those fears. I do the opposite." "And that works? Being nice?" Emma couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. "It's not about being nice, it's about understanding their nature and working with it instead of against it." Ethan handed her an apple from his pocket. "Hold this flat on your palm, don't approach him. Let him decide." Emma took the apple, feeling oddly vulnerable. "What if he charges?" "He won't," Ethan said with quiet confidence. "But if he moves, suddenly just stay still, don't run." Emma stood with her arm extended, feeling increasingly foolish as minutes ticked by. Just as she was about to give up, Thunder took a hesitant step toward her, then another. Emma's breath caught in her throat as the massive animal approached. His dark eyes studied her, nostrils flaring to catch her scent. With excruciating slowness, Thunder stretched his neck and delicately took the apple from her palm, his lips tickling her skin. The simple contact sent an unexpected thrill through Emma. She looked at Ethan in amazement. "That's—" She searched for words. "That's something." Ethan's smile reached his eyes this time. "That's trust beginning. Small step, but significant." For the next 2 weeks, Emma found herself drawn to the round pen more and more frequently. Her morning visits extended from 15 minutes to an hour or more. She watched as Ethan gradually introduced a halter, teaching Thunder to accept it without fear. There were setbacks, days when the stallion seemed to regress, when he would shy away from contact or paw nervously at the ground. "Why does he do that?" Emma asked after a particularly frustrating session. "One day he seems fine, the next it's like starting over." They sat on the fence rail, sharing a thermos of coffee. Ethan had brought. The autumn air had grown cooler, and Emma had taken to wearing her father's old sheepskin jacket during these morning sessions. "Trauma doesn't heal in a straight line," Ethan replied, passing her the cup. "Something triggered him today. A memory, a similarity to past pain. We just have to be patient. Emma sipped the strong black coffee. You talk about him like he's a person. Emotions aren't exclusive to humans. Fear, trust, confusion, animals feel them too. They just express them differently. Is that what happened to you? The question slipped out before Emma could stop it. Ethan gave her a questioning look. What do you mean? Emma hesitated, then decided to push forward. Frank told me about your history. Former rodeo star. Bad accident. Career ended. Then you disappeared. For years before reinventing yourself as... She gestured vaguely, whatever this is. Ethan was quiet for so long that Emma thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was measured. I rode broncs professionally for 8 years. Was good at it too. Made it to the national finals 3 times. He paused. The accident was my fault. I was showing off, got careless. Horse fell wrong, crushed my leg, nearly lost it. I'm sorry, Emma said quietly. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me. His gaze drifted to Thunder. While I was recovering, I had a lot of time to think about what I'd been doing. Forcing animals to perform for entertainment, using pain to control them. He shook his head. I started studying natural horsemanship, behavior patterns, communication methods. Found I had a knack for it. And now you fix the unfixable, Emma said. I help horses and people understand each other, he corrected. Sometimes it's the people who need fixing more than the horses. The comment hung between them, neither acknowledging its potential application to their situation. The next day, a major setback occurred. One of the ranch hands, frustrated by what he perceived as Ethan's slow progress, entered the pen while Ethan was away and attempted to force a saddle on Thunder. The stallion panicked, rearing and striking out. By the time Emma arrived, drawn by the commotion, the hand was scrambling out of the pen while Thunder galloped frantically around its perimeter, wild-eyed with fear. Ethan arrived moments later, his face darkening as he assessed the situation. Without a word to anyone, he entered the pen and placed himself in the center, his body language calm but authoritative. For nearly an hour, he worked to bring Thunder back from the edge of panic, using techniques Emma had never seen before, sounds, movements, and an almost preternatural stillness at key moments. That evening, after Thunder had finally calmed, Emma found Ethan sitting alone by the barn, methodically cleaning tack that didn't belong to him. I fired him, she said without preamble. Reynolds, the hand who went in the pen. Ethan nodded but didn't look up. Your ranch, your decision. Are you angry? Emma asked, sitting beside him on the wooden bench. Not at you. His hands continued their rhythmic work. 3 weeks of progress, potentially undone in 5 minutes. Can you fix it? Ethan finally looked at her. I don't know. Trust, once broken, is harder to rebuild than to establish in the first place. There was something in his eyes that made Emma wonder if they were still talking about the horse. I'm sorry, she said. I should have made it clearer to everyone that your methods weren't to be interfered with. Why didn't you? His question was direct, his gaze unwavering. Emma looked away. I guess part of me wasn't fully committed to your approach. I let the others see that doubt. And now? Emma thought about the progress she'd witnessed, the connection forming between man and horse, and if she was honest with herself, the subtle shift in her own perspective. Now I want to see this through, she said firmly. Whatever it takes. Ethan studied her for a long moment before nodding. Then we start again tomorrow. Together. The word, together, lingered in the cool evening air, carrying a weight neither of them acknowledged, but both felt. The following week brought challenges neither Emma nor Ethan had anticipated. Thunder's setback proved significant. The stallion now regarded humans with renewed suspicion. More concerning to Emma was her father's unexpected visit to the ranch. Gerald Blackwood arrived unannounced on a Tuesday afternoon, his driver helping him from the car, his movement still labored from his recent health scare. Daddy, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be resting. Emma hurried across the gravel driveway, concern evident in her voice. Gerald Blackwood, still imposing, despite his weakened state, waved away her worry. Can't keep a man cooped up forever. Needed to see how things are going. His sharp eyes scanned the property. Frank tells me you hired some horse whisperer for Thunder? Emma winced at the term. His name is Ethan Rivers. He's a specialist in rehabilitating traumatized horses. Gerald's eyebrows rose. Traumatized? It's a horse, Emma, not a war veteran. Sometimes you just need a firm hand. His methods are working, Emma defended, surprising herself with her quick response. Or they were until one of our hands interfered. The one you fired? Gerald fixed her with a pointed look. Reynolds has been with us for 8 years. He directly disobeyed an order and jeopardized an expensive investment, Emma replied, falling back on business terms she knew her father would understand. I made a judgment call. Gerald studied his daughter for a long moment. You've changed. Emma wasn't sure if that was criticism or approval. I'm doing what's necessary for the ranch. Gerald nodded toward his luggage. I'll be staying for a week or so. Want to see this miracle worker in action. That evening, Emma found Ethan at the far edge of the property, sitting on a fallen log overlooking a small creek that marked the boundary line. The setting sun cast long shadows across the valley, painting the Montana landscape in shades of gold and amber. She hesitated before approaching, struck by how naturally he seemed to belong in this setting. My father's here, she said, sitting beside him on the log. He wants to observe your work. Ethan nodded slowly. Frank mentioned he was back. How's his recovery going? Slower than he'd like. Emma picked up a small stone and tossed it into the creek. He's traditional. Expects results. Quick ones. Like his daughter, Ethan observed, a slight smile softening the comment. Emma didn't deny it. I come by it honestly. 3 generations of Blackwoods have run this ranch with the same philosophy. Efficiency, results, profit. And happiness? Ethan asked. The question caught Emma off guard. What do you mean? In all that efficiency and profit, where does happiness fit in? Emma laughed, but there was little humor in it. Happiness is a luxury, not a business model. My grandfather used to say contentment was just a fancy word for complacency. Ethan was quiet for a moment, watching the water flow over smooth stones. What do you think? No one had asked for her opinion on such matters in a long time. In New York, her life had been a carefully choreographed performance of competence. Here, back on her family's land, she found herself increasingly questioning long-held assumptions. I think, she began slowly, I think I've spent so long trying to prove myself that I forgot to ask if I was proving the right things. The admission hung between them, more intimate than she had intended. Ethan didn't rush to fill the silence, and Emma found his quiet presence oddly comforting. What about you? She finally asked. Are you happy, Ethan Rivers, wandering from ranch to ranch fixing broken horses? He considered her question seriously. I'm at peace with what I do. There's satisfaction in the work, he paused, but happiness, that's more complicated. Why? Emma found herself genuinely curious. Ethan's gaze remained on the creek. My father was a lot like yours. Traditional cowboy, believed animals were tools, not partners. We butted heads my whole life. When I changed my methods after the accident, he called it a betrayal of everything he taught me. The pain in his voice was old, but still evident. He hasn't spoken to me in 5 years. I'm sorry, Emma said softly. Family expectations can be suffocating. Is that why you left? Ethan asked. To breathe? Emma nodded. Partly. Also to prove I could make it on my own, without the Blackwood name opening doors. She sighed. Ironic that I ended up right back where I started. Not exactly where you started, Ethan observed. You came back changed, with new skills, new perspectives. The next morning, Gerald Blackwood stood at the round pen, watching with poorly concealed skepticism as Ethan worked with Thunder. Emma stood beside her father, acutely aware of the tension in his posture. This is what we're paying for? Gerald muttered after 20 minutes of Ethan simply standing in the center of the pen while Thunder circled him. Looks like a whole lot of nothing to me. Watch, Emma said quietly. Just watch. Gradually, Thunder's circling slowed. his head lowered slightly, ears rotating forward with interest rather than pinned back in fear. When Ethan finally raised his hand, the stallion stopped moving entirely, regarding the man with cautious attention. Ethan made a soft clicking sound with his tongue. Thunder took a hesitant step forward, then another. Within minutes, the horse, that had been deemed unmanageable, was following Ethan around the pen without a lead rope, stopping when he stopped, moving when he moved. Gerald's eyebrows rose. Well, that's a neat trick, but following is a far cry from accepting a rider. It's a foundation, Emma explained. Trust first, then training. Her father gave her a curious look. You sound like you've bought into this method. I've seen the results, Emma replied simply. Later that afternoon, Emma brought Ethan a folder of Thunder's registration papers to review his lineage. She found him in the barn, mixing a special blend of feed. His grandsire was Midnight Serenade, Ethan noted, reviewing the documents. Explains a lot. How so? Emma leaned against the stall door. Midnight Serenade produced exceptional offspring, but they all had similar temperaments. Intelligent, sensitive, prone to anxiety if mishandled. Ethan closed the folder. Your father paid top dollar for any superior genetics, then tried to train him like an ordinary horse. Emma frowned. So it's our fault he's like this? Not fault. Misunderstanding. Ethan handed back the folder. Your father wants to see faster progress. Emma nodded. He's questioning the investment. Then tell him to meet us at the round. Pen tomorrow at dawn. Time to accelerate things a bit. The next morning brought a light frost, the first of the season. Emma arrived at the round pen to find her father already there, stamping his feet against the cold. Ethan arrived moments later, leading not Thunder but a gentle bay mare. What's this? Gerald demanded. I thought we were working with the stallion. We are, Ethan replied calmly, but first, Mr. Blackwood, I'd like you to meet Willow. He handed the mare's lead rope to Gerald. Would you hold her for a moment while I get Thunder? Gerald took the rope with a bewildered expression as Ethan disappeared into the barn. Emma hid a smile, recognizing that Ethan was deliberately giving her father an active role. When Ethan returned leading Thunder, the change in the stallion was remarkable. Though still alert, his movements were more controlled, his eyes less wild. Ethan brought him into the round pen and removed the lead rope, allowing him to move freely. Horses are herd animals, Ethan explained, rejoining them outside the pen. They crave companionship, hierarchy, and purpose. He nodded toward the gate. Emma, would you bring Willow into the pen, please? Emma glanced at her father, who reluctantly handed over the lead rope. She led the gentle mare into the pen, surprised, when Ethan followed her in and then asked her to stay. Stand here, he positioned her in the center. Hold Willow's rope loosely. Thunder knows her. They've been in adjacent pastures. She's calm, so he'll take cues from her. Emma stood nervously. As Ethan began moving around the pen, using subtle body language to direct both horses. To her amazement, Thunder began mirroring Willow's calm behavior, eventually standing quietly beside the mare while Ethan approached. This is incredible, Gerald admitted, watching from outside the pen. But can he be ridden? We're getting there, Ethan said. He turned to Emma. Would you be willing to help with the next step? Emma's heart raced. Me? What do you need me to do? Just trust me, Ethan said quietly, his green eyes holding hers, like he's learning to. The moment felt significant, weighted with meaning beyond the immediate task. Emma nodded. I trust you. Over the next hour, Emma followed Ethan's gentle instructions, participating in Thunder's training in ways she'd never imagined. By the end of the session, she had helped place a saddle on Thunder's back, something that would have caused panic just weeks before. Tomorrow, Ethan told Gerald as they exited the pen, if all goes well, we'll try a rider. You? Gerald asked. Ethan glanced at Emma. Actually, I was thinking your daughter might be the perfect first rider. Thunder's connected with her. Emma's surprise must have shown on her face. That is, Ethan added, if she's willing. Before Emma could respond, her father's expression darkened. Absolutely not. Too dangerous. I won't have my daughter risking her neck on an unpredictable animal. Dad, Emma began to protest. No, Emma. I've already nearly lost your mother. I won't risk you too. The statement hung heavy in the air. Emma's mother had left them when Emma was 12, abandoning the ranch life she'd grown to resent. The mention of her was rare and always painful. Gerald turned to Ethan. You ride him, that's what we're paying you for. As her father walked away, Emma felt a familiar mixture of frustration and resignation. Ethan stood beside her, his presence steady. He's afraid, Ethan said quietly. Fear makes people hold tighter to what they love. Emma looked at him, struck by his insight. Sometimes what they love needs to be free. Their eyes met, and Emma felt something shift between them. A recognition, a possibility neither had acknowledged until now. Before either could speak, Frank called from the main house, waving urgently. Emma, phone call from New York, it's important. As Emma hurried away, she glanced back to see Ethan standing beside Thunder, his hand resting gently on the stallion's neck. Two solitary figures against the vast Montana landscape. Emma paced the length of her father's office, the phone call from New York replaying in her mind. Charles Woodley, her ex-fiancé and former business partner, had called with an offer that would have seemed perfect just a month ago. Their investment firm was merging with a larger company, creating an opportunity for Emma to return as managing director with double her previous salary and significant equity. The board wanted her answer within 48 hours. 5 years ago, Charles had left her weeks before their wedding, choosing career advancement over their relationship. The pain had been excruciating, but Emma had channeled it into professional success, building a reputation as a ruthless negotiator and brilliant strategist. Now Charles was offering her everything she'd worked for, everything except an apology. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Her father entered, moving more steadily than he had since his arrival. Frank said it was New York calling. Problems with your old firm? Gerald settled into his chair behind the desk, a position Emma had occupied for the past 2 months. Not. Problems. Opportunities. Emma leaned against the window frame, gazing out at the mountains that framed their property. They want me back. Better position. More money. Gerald was quiet for a moment. And you're considering it? It wasn't a question, but Emma answered anyway. I'd be crazy not to from a career perspective. But, her father prompted, surprising her with his perception. Emma sighed. But I've started something here. The new breeding program, the tourism initiative, the staff restructuring. I'm making a difference. Gerald studied his daughter, his expression softening. Your mother felt trapped here. I always worried you did too. The rare mention of her mother caught Emma off guard. Is that why you never asked me to come back, even when you needed help? I wanted you to choose your own path, Gerald admitted. Not feel obligated by legacy. Emma's throat tightened with unexpected emotion. I didn't feel trapped in New York either. I felt, empty. Successful, but empty. Her father nodded slowly. And now? Now I feel connected. To the land, to the people, to the work. She hesitated. To myself, maybe, for the first time. Gerald's shrewd eyes held hers. And to Rivers? Emma looked away, unwilling to acknowledge what was becoming increasingly difficult to deny. He's opened my eyes to different approaches. That's all. Emma, her father's voice was gentler than she could remember in years. I've watched you. These past few days. You're different with him, lighter, more like the girl who used to race her pony across these fields with her hair flying and not a care in the world. Before Emma could respond, Frank appeared at the door, his expression urgent. Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to come. Reynolds is back and he's causing trouble at the Round Pen. They found a tense standoff at the training area. Reynolds, the fired ranch hand, had returned with 2 friends from neighboring properties. They stood confronting Ethan, who remained calm despite their aggressive postures. Thunder paced nervously in the pen behind them. What's going on here? Emma demanded, striding forward. Reynolds turned, his face flushed with anger or alcohol, possibly both. Just having a word with your fancy horse trainer. telling him real cowboys don't waste time with whispers and feelings. "You're trespassing." "Reynolds," Gerald said firmly. "Leave now before I call the sheriff." "Oh, I'll leave," Reynolds sneered, "after we see if this stallion is really trained or just playing pretend." He turned to his companions. "Bet you $50 I can ride that beast right now." Before anyone could stop him, Reynolds vaulted over the fence into the pen. Thunder immediately tensed, ears pinned back, eyes wide with fear. "Stop!" Ethan moved quickly, positioning himself between Reynolds and the agitated stallion. "You'll undo weeks of progress." "Progress?" Reynolds laughed. "Looks like the same wild beast to me." He reached for a coiled rope hanging on the fence post. Emma watched in horror as the situation escalated. Thunder began circling frantically, his panic building. In one swift motion, Ethan pushed Reynolds aside and entered the pen, placing himself in Thunder's path. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Using the techniques Emma had watched him develop over weeks, Ethan gradually calmed the stallion's frenzy. His voice, too low for the observers to hear, seemed to reach through Thunder's fear. The great horse slowed, then stopped, nostrils flaring, eyes still wild but focusing on Ethan. With deliberate movements, Ethan approached Thunder, speaking softly. To everyone's amazement, the stallion lowered his head, allowing Ethan to place a gentle hand on his muzzle. "That's it," Emma heard Ethan murmur. "You're safe. I won't let anyone hurt you." Reynolds, momentarily stunned by the display, recovered his bravado. "Parlor tricks, let's see him ride it." "That's enough," Gerald's authoritative voice cut through the tension. "Reynolds, you and your friends leave now, or I'm pressing charges for trespassing and attempted property damage." As Frank escorted the unwelcome visitors off the property, Emma approached the pen cautiously. Thunder remained calm beside Ethan, though his muscles still trembled with residual anxiety. "Is he okay?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. Shaken, but he held it together. "He's stronger than he looks." His gaze met hers. "Like some people I know." That evening, after ensuring Thunder was settled for the night, Emma found Ethan at the same spot by the creek where they'd talked before. The setting sun bathed the landscape in soft golden light, the water catching fire with its reflection. "You're leaving," Ethan said without turning as she approached. It wasn't a question. Emma stopped, surprised. "How did you know?" "Your father mentioned the call from New York." Ethan skipped a stone across the water, watching it bounce 5 times before sinking. "Big opportunity," he said. Emma sat beside him on the log. "It is. Everything I've worked for." "Then congratulations are in order." His voice was carefully neutral. They sat in silence for several minutes, the gentle gurgle of the creek filling the space between them. Emma found herself memorizing details, the way the fading light caught in his hair, the strong line of his profile, the quiet confidence in his posture. "What if I don't want it anymore?" The words escaped before she could censor them. Ethan turned to her then, his expression questioning. "The job, the life," Emma clarified. "The endless meetings, the constant competition, the success that never feels like enough." She gestured toward the open land around them. "Coming back here, I thought it was temporary, a duty to fulfill. But now?" Ethan prompted when she didn't continue. Emma took a deep breath. "Now I'm not sure what I want, except—" She met his gaze directly. "I'm not ready for this to end." "This?" His voice was soft, tentative. "Whatever this is between us." Emma felt vulnerable in a way no business negotiation had ever made her feel. "I know it's complicated. You'll move on to the next troubled horse, the next ranch, that's your life." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "It doesn't have to be." Emma's heart quickened. "What do you mean?" "I've been offered a position at the Equine Therapy Center in Bozeman, teaching my methods, helping wounded veterans work with horses." He looked out across the valley. "It would mean staying in one place, building something permanent." "That's wonderful," Emma said, genuinely happy for him. "You'd be amazing at that." "It's an hour's drive from here," Ethan added, his implication clear. The possibility hung between them, fragile and new. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message, Charles pressing for her decision. "You should go back to New York," Ethan said suddenly, standing up. "At least to properly close that chapter. Make your decision without regrets. Or what-ifs." Emma stood too, confused by his abrupt shift. "Is that what you want?" "What I want," Ethan shook his head, "what I want is for you to be sure. About the ranch, about your future." He paused. "About us, if there is an us to consider." The next morning dawned clear and cool. Emma rose early, her decision made after a night of reflection. She found her father in the kitchen, sipping coffee and reading the newspaper. "I've decided to return to New York," she told him, pouring herself a cup. "But just to wrap things up properly, not to stay." Gerald nodded, unsurprised. "And after?" "After I'm coming home. For good." Emma met her father's gaze. "If you'll have me as a full partner in running Blackwood Valley." Gerald's weathered face broke into a rare smile. "Nothing would make me prouder." "There will be changes," Emma warned. "Modernization, new approaches, some of Ethan's philosophy applied more broadly." "Speaking of rivers," Gerald folded his newspaper, "he came by at dawn, said he's ready for the final test with Thunder, asked if you'd be there." Emma's heart raced. "When?" 9 o'clock. The North Pasture. Emma arrived at the pasture to find Ethan standing beside Thunder, who was fully saddled and remarkably calm. Her father waited nearby, along with Frank and several other ranch hands who had gathered to witness the culmination of Ethan's work. "You're really going to ride him?" Emma asked, approaching cautiously. Ethan shook his head. "No. You are..." Emma's eyes widened. "Me?" "But my father has given his permission," Gerald called from the fence, "if you're willing." Emma looked from her father to Ethan, stunned by this unexpected development. "I haven't ridden in years, not since your mother left," Ethan finished gently. "I know your father told me." Emma's throat tightened with emotion. "Why me? Why not you?" "Because Thunder trusts you," Ethan said simply, "almost as much as he trusts me, and because I think you both need this." He held out his hand. "Trust me one more time?" Heart pounding, Emma placed her hand in his. Ethan led her to Thunder's side, giving quiet instructions as she prepared to mount. The stallion stood perfectly still, his ear flicking back to listen to her but showing no signs of fear. "He's ready," Ethan assured her. "You both are." With a deep breath, Emma swung into the saddle. Thunder shifted slightly, adjusting to her. Wait, but remained calm. Ethan kept one hand on the bridle, the other resting, reassuringly on Emma's leg. "Just breathe," he instructed. "Feel his rhythm. Let him know you're not afraid." Gradually, Emma relaxed into the familiar sensation of being on horseback. Thunder responded to her calmness, his own tension easing. Ethan stepped back, leaving them connected without his intervention. "Walk him around," Ethan suggested. "Just easy, no pressure." Emma gently squeezed her legs, and Thunder moved forward willingly. They circled the pasture once, then again with growing confidence. The sensation was exhilarating, the power of the animal beneath her, the trust between them, the freedom of movement after years of restraint. When they returned to where Ethan waited, Emma's face was transformed by joy. "He's magnificent," she breathed. Ethan's smile matched her own. "You both are." That evening, as sunset painted the Montana sky in spectacular hues of orange and purple, Emma and Ethan stood together. In Thunder's stall, the stallion dozed peacefully, exhausted from the day's milestone. "My flight leaves tomorrow morning," Emma said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I should be back within 2 weeks, 3 at most." Ethan nodded, his hand brushing against hers in the dim light of the stable. "The job in Bozeman doesn't start for a month. I thought I might stick around, help with the other horses." Emma turned to face him. "And after that month?" "After that," Ethan's voice was soft but certain, "I thought I might see if Blackwood Valley needs a permanent equine behavior specialist. If the owner's amenable, the owner might be very amenable, Emma whispered, her heart racing as Ethan stepped closer. I should warn you, he said, his hand gently cupping her cheek. I come with conditions. No shortcuts, no force. Patience required. Emma smiled, leaning into his touch. Sounds like how you train horses. It's how I approach everything that matters, Ethan replied, his eyes serious despite his smile. And you, Emma Blackwood, matter very much. As his lips met hers, Emma felt something wild and beautiful break free within her, something that had been restrained for far too long. Like thunder, she had been misunderstood, her spirit contained rather than channeled. And like thunder, she had found her freedom not in escape, but in the right kind of connection. 2 weeks later, Emma returned to Blackwood Valley for good. She arrived to find Thunder waiting at the fence line, Ethan by his side. As she approached, the stallion nickered softly in recognition. Welcome home, Ethan said, his smile warming her more than the Montana sun. Emma reached out, placing one hand on Thunder's strong neck and the other in Ethan's waiting grasp. I've learned something important, she told him. Some hearts, like some horses, aren't meant to be broken. They're meant to run free, with the right companion by their side. In the years that followed, Blackwood Valley transformed. Under Emma and Gerald's joint leadership, with Ethan's guidance, they established a renowned equine therapy program that served veterans, troubled youth, and corporate executives seeking authentic leadership skills. Thunder became the program's ambassador, his story of transformation inspiring countless others. Emma and Ethan married the following spring in a simple ceremony beside the creek where they had first begun to understand each other. Gerald, healthier and more at peace than he had been in years, proudly walked his daughter down the aisle. As for Charles Woodley, he eventually visited the ranch as a client seeking to overcome his fear of horses, a fear Emma hadn't known about, during their relationship. Under Ethan's guidance, Charles faced his anxieties and in the process found the courage to sincerely apologize for the pain he had caused. Emma accepted his apology with a gracious heart, recognizing that without that pain, she might never have found her way back to herself and to the extraordinary love that now defined her life. Sometimes the greatest journeys lead us right back to where we started, but with new eyes to see the beauty that was there all along. For Emma and Ethan, that journey began with an untamable spirit, not just Thunder's but their own. In learning to honor that wildness rather than subdue it, they discovered that true freedom comes not from breaking barriers, but from building bridges between souls that recognize themselves in each other. Dear listeners,